You're welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us this Thursday edition of the show. As we're counting down to the end of the week. We're streaming live on YouTube via News Central TV Live, where we take your comments and your questions, contribution, disagreement. All of that is very welcome here. My name is Olive MOD, and you're welcome to the show.
You're welcome to the show. My name is Joe Hansen. It's definitely Thursday morning. And don't forget, the trio is not complete because one of the trio has decided to go on a special trip, but he'll be back most definitely on Monday by his grace. We must always add that. But welcome to Breakfast Central. Je suis Joe Hansen. My name is Jonathan Hansen, or Joe Hansen for short.
You say
and
John?
Today, Brandy?
Did you say John Johansson?
Jonathan.
Okay.
Yeah. So my name is Jonathan.
So short form of Jonathan, is it
I've
John?
always used Joe Hansen all since I started broadcasting.
So from tomorrow, I'll start to call you John.
No, Joe Hansen is fine.
No lie, it's
Pretty
John.
much. Both of them is fine.
Okay, hello, John.
No, John is not it. Apparently, John was my father's name, so it kind of like tallies in
Jonathan,
between.
John.
So you see, Jonathan has a lot inside. You can form so many names. Nathan.
Nate.
Fan.
Fan.
Oh yeah, there's some people. Check it. You find people who like
Fan.
Fan. Oh yes. I was shocked when I
That's
said.
more of a
what's his
color,
name?
like
Said
what
Fan.
I'm wearing.
Oh, Fan, really? What does that mean? Oh yes.
Interesting.
You know, just like people bear stone. You know, I'm just waiting to see if somebody will bear kuli kuli.
No. It's my Bielsa brethren. Shout out to my Bielsa brethren. They have really lovely names. Someone can be a bicycle, aeroplane. Yeah, I'm not joking.
Yeah,
like they have because I schooled in Bielsa State.
I don't mean
so
to chuckle, but
I saw like very interesting names there.
I think for me, the names I even fell in love with mostly are people from Plateau State, from the north, the central north. They have names like
Aondoga.
Yop. I mean, I have my niece. Her name is Yop. I have Dale. You know, just those names are very, very. I'm like, Yop.
That's the beauty of our culture. The diversity, like we said in T.Y. Bello and Kosh sang in the song.
Beautiful.
Said our strength is in our diversity.
Nigeria is
anyway, speaking of our diversity, let's move away from Lagos to another place. And this is a story that we've been following for the past 2 days. The Onitsha Head Bridge in Anambra State was blocked on Wednesday as residents staged a protest against the continued closure of the Onitsha main market, ordered earlier in the week by Governor Chukwuma Soludo. Videos shared online on X shows protesters barricading access points to the bridge and chanting slogans such as "No way in and no way out" and "Onitsha to Asaba blocked" as the demonstration intensified and movement was halted. The protests followed the governor's Monday directive imposing a 1-week shutdown of the market, a decision that triggered street protests by traders on Tuesday, during which placards were displayed and solidarity songs chanted, including expressions of support for the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. The blockade of the strategic bridge, which connects Anambra and Delta states, reportedly disrupted movement in and out of the state, highlighting growing tensions over the enforcement of the government order. Now let's take a look at the videos. We'll come back to share our thoughts and then we head to X to see what Nigerians are saying.
No market on Monday. No market on Monday. Yes, sir. No market on Monday. Confirm.
Some have argued that shutting down the Onitsha main market as a result of them not showing up to the market on Mondays, like putting fire to fire. And like I said yesterday when I was speaking with the media aide to the governor, I said many would argue that it is spiting your nose or cutting your nose to spite your face. Because if you complain that the state loses approximately 9 billion naira every week when the main market shuts on Monday, but you're willing to shut it down for 7 days, that's 63 billion naira that will be lost in 1 week because of one day's refusal to show up. And then he said the next Monday, if they refuse, he'll shut it down for another week and he'll keep doing it. So are you willing to cripple the economy totally because of the citizens' refusal? Now, the reasons, we did talk about the reasons yesterday, and we talked about how they cited insecurity, because we're aware of people who have been attacked and their businesses have been attacked because of the sit-at-home order. But what we've seen here is Governor Soludo says it's a baseless argument because they have security personnel, about 150 security personnel in the Onitsha main market. So the question is, I mean, the sit-at-home order has stopped in places like Enugu, I heard. So maybe he needs to find out what those other ones did. I looked online and tried to find out what Enugu did. I think they also took a bit of a radical approach. But sometimes you must look for homegrown solutions. What works in state A may not apply to your state. Onitsha main market is a strong pillar in southeastern Nigeria in terms of the economic hub. Is like a fulcrum on which the economy rests. And just totally shutting down because you want to execute your powers as a governor to chase out fear, rightfully so, to stop those who are capitalizing on the movement, you know, understandably, but the methods, what's been criticized. So we're streaming live on X. Let us know what your thoughts are. News Central TV Live is the page to drop your comments. We'll head on to YouTube, rather, to get your comments from the YouTube section. Joe?
Olive, I think we saw this coming. If you recall, we did see this coming. We talked about this yesterday. My worry is the governor's approach is a major worry, and it's a worry. It's a major cause for concern. And I'm just going to say this here. The governor himself should be more circumspect in how he deals with this issue. Reason, this issue can be politicized. And it can be politicized so easily because you have aggrieved persons, you have non-members of ABGA, you have state actors who feel that that result of the court's, the final judgment on Nnamdi Kanu didn't go down well with so many people. So they'll be looking for a way to vent or to show their anger. And what the governor has done is, if he's not careful, he's giving them a medium or a plate or a platform to do so. What do I mean? These aggrieved persons can finally turn around and say, you know what, let's finally cripple this state and let's cripple it completely. And that's what it's starting to look like. Let's not forget the fact that we're not saying it's politicized yet, but it could eventually be politicized because that's where you have political elements who would come in, wield the big stick, have a fat pocket, and then start paying people, incentivizing them, making sure that they have enough so that they can go ahead and wreak havoc. And sadly, those who own shops may not even know what is really going on at a certain point in time because they will not be in full control when it's blown out of proportion. So I think this is the right time for the governor to sit down, follow that approach that was mentioned here when we talked to his essay yesterday, and look at having that meeting, which they said it was going to happen this week. I think it will happen today, or better still, Friday. It was scheduled, but with this protest, we don't know the state of things. But I think it will be good. I'm sure we'll be reaching out to him once again to find out if that meeting will hold today or tomorrow. But it's very imperative and very clear that he needs to fix things now. Failure to fix things now, what we see starting off like, oh, it's just a protest, will end up snowballing to what I don't think the people of Anambra would want to see in a long time to come. Because it will be sad to hear that the market, the entire market space has been shut down. People have now lost their means of livelihood. We did have a guest here, Sheson joined us yesterday, and he highlighted one key aspect I didn't even look at. He said when people don't go to work and you keep them away from work for months, these youths will start looking for alternative to survive, and that's when you have them engaging in vices.
The idle mind is the
idle mind is the devil's workshop, like they say. So again, I think Governor Soludo should stand up right now, try as much as possible to shelve that dictatorship approach of, if you don't open your market, I'll do this. No, follow another approach. Try to be soft, empathetic, and try to understand these people. That's it. For those who haven't been aware that we've been following up with this case, just to mention that some of the concerns raised in the closure of the Onitsha main market as a refusal or as a punishment for refusing to return to the market on Mondays raises several concerns. One, the concern would be, does the governor have the power to insist on when people should or should not return to the market, especially when these citizens are civilians? They're not civil servants, they're not working for the government, they're running their own businesses. Should the governor have the power to insist
that they resume work on Monday. Bear in mind that there are businesses that have set up structures where they work all weekends and take the Monday off. 2, the sit-at-home order might not sit well with a lot of people because some of them have cited fears of insecurity. What security measures have been put in place to ensure that citizens feel reassured that their priority or their safety is a priority for the government, as opposed to barely dishing out orders, that the orders are backed up by action, corresponding action. And thirdly, beyond beyond the citizens' safety, there are those who genuinely want to stay at home because they're throwing the support behind Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So is that a conversation that should be revisited? Because you can't look forward without looking back to see what the problems are. What you're doing is you're treating a solution, you're treating the symptoms without actually going to the root cause of the sickness. So why were they disgruntled in the first place? Who are the people that are disgruntled? Who are the ones enforcing what is the core message you're trying to pass? And how can all parties come to the negotiation table? Saying that they should all stay at home, insisting and mandating that the market be closed before 1 week is not the best approach, many would argue. It might be counterintuitive. It might be basically trying to do the same thing that you're preaching against. Because if they miss 1 day on a Monday, missing 7 days will make the market lose more money. But let's see what Nigerians are saying on X, and then we'll come back to take some comments on YouTube.
Izu says Soludo will go down in history as the man who saved Igbo economy from economic saboteurs who had laid siege on Igbo economy. He has the support of a majority of Igbos worldwide to save Igbo land from further economic sabotage. That's Izu's translation or view on this issue. Let's see, we'll have more tweets very quickly. Adeobi Ifunanya says he didn't learn from Wike. Tinubu doesn't need noise in Nigeria. Well, I don't understand.
What that Tinubu doesn't need any noise because he feels like the president can declare state of emergency.
Well, Lionheart.
If the protest takes a different shape.
Yeah, he should take note. He should take note. Lionheart, when they are done clowning, let them go and open the shops. Let's see. When hunger comes, everybody's eye go clear. And Ndukire Kingsley in America says they can continue shouting for another successful week's lockdown. The governor is receiving his salary. Person will not get money to chop will start thinking of how to steal, and this same government will capture the person or the masses who join him. Chairs will still burn him down. Okay, all right. Ndukire says, do we have one more tweet? Let's see if we do. And okay, that's all. But I think the statements are clear. The points are made clear. Just to give an update, by the way, the governor did mention newly affected markets that need to be opened ASAP. If not, the risk being shut down for a while. They are Ochanja Central Market, Bridgehead Market, Ogbaru Main Market, Building Materials Market, Ogidi, Agbaido Auto Spare Parts Market, Newi, and New Auto and Motorcycle Spare Parts Market, Newi. There are many others as well. There's so many. There's Old Mercedes-Benz Spare Parts Dealers Market, Mpo. There's also Old Motor Spare Parts Market, Obosi, and Electrical Dealers International Market, Obosi, amidst, others. So let's see what will happen. Let's hope that this protest will be stopped ASAP as soon as possible by the governor. It's time for him to, put on his shoes, lace up his boots. He's not playing football, but of course, with that knowledge, you understand what I mean. He needs to go straight into the streets and try as much as possible to call for calm and settle this the best way possible. But don't also forget that there are a lot of, as we mentioned, stage actors are watching. This could actually snowball to something else.
Yeah, there was a meeting, stakeholders meeting that happened yesterday at 11 a.m. We haven't gotten the details yet, but we'll reach out to the media team as well. We'll keep reaching out to them and asking them to come on the show, and we'll see, because that will determine how this market issues will turn, what will be the next step. But let's move on now from protest to a very sad, heartbreaking, and disheartening story. Internet personality Eo Prosper has raised alarm after alleging that he was abducted, assaulted, and robbed by men he identified as police officers in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. According to Prosper, the incident occurred while he was on his way to the gym when a bus allegedly conveying police officers intercepted him, forced him inside, and beat him, leaving him with injuries to his ribs. He claimed the men seized his phones, accessed his bank and savings account, and drove him to another local government area where he was pressured to withdraw and transfer money, initially demanding 6 million naira before allegedly taking all the funds he had and abandoning him in a remote area. Describing the experience as traumatic, Prosper said the incident reflects growing insecurity and abuse of power. You see the stories he put up. He said, Nigeria has failed us. So on my way to the gym today, I was double-crossed by a bus with police officers. These guys forced me into their bus. I'm talking serious beating. Injured my rib, took my phones, opened all my accounts, including my piggy, where my savings was. These thieves/kidnappers drove me to another local government and asked me to withdraw everything else they'd waste me. Mind you, these guys asked for 6 million and this was a bush. After making the transfer of all I had, they just left me stranded there like a stray. This is the height of oppression, cannot be tolerated. All my savings. Then it goes on to say, I try as much as possible to lead a good legal life, so tell me why these police robbers put me in handcuffs, beat me to the point where I could barely breathe. You don't even want to see the marks on my face. Accusing me of being into fraud, asked me to call my friends to send me money to complete the 6 million they asked for. Isn't this how kidnappers operate? Or am I missing something? Now, he didn't stop there. He went on to say, this is broad daylight robbery by the police force. How do we live in such an insecure society? I wasn't in a public transport. I wasn't with hard drugs. Nothing. Tell me why I was treated like a criminal. These people took every last kobo, still left me badly hurt, spoiled my iPhone. I literally had to beg a passerby for card. Very humiliating. No means to track them. No surveillance cameras. Nothing. I don't even know what to make of this. What if I had nothing to give? What if I was shot? What if? Thank you all for checking up on me, for all the love. I'm recovering but very much traumatized. To those saying I should go to the police, they came to me first. They should come again, because at this point, I can never see them the same. I'll be putting out a video soon explaining in detail what transpired. Nigeria is just a bad place to be and we're all just managing. If you can leave, please do. And now here's the video that he put out detailing his experience.
I really don't know how to feel about this, because are we supposed to be scared of the police as well as much as we're scared of the thieves, the kidnappers? Because I literally thought these guys were kidnappers. If you see the bus these people used to carry me, there was no glass. Like, it was trampoline. You can't see. If you're outside, you can't see inside, and if you're inside, you can't see outside. They just double-crossed my cab, asked me to come down. The cab guy did nothing. They just took me from Port Harcourt to Bayelsa. They were driving, they were beating me. I have like a bruise in my back. I have one on my rib here. And then thank God, I was just like securing my face. But earlier today, I had like slap marks on my face. And then there are handcuff marks on my hands as well. So yeah, these guys took me and they were like, oh, why do I have that kind of money in my account? They opened up my account, by the way. Opened my savings and all that. Mind you, I just like got a place. I'm trying to furnish the place. So I've been trying to like gather funds and all that, because like it's not small money. So I'm trying to furnish it. I'm trying to like just get myself, you know. And these people just opened my accounts, asked me to send everything to one account. The first thing that they said was, you're going to pay 6 million. And I'm like, how? Like, these guys, I could barely breathe. That's how bad it was. The only prayer I was saying was, God, let me just make it out alive. Because I've heard stories of how they kill people, how they made someone cripple. They took me to a POS stand and I transferred the money to the girl. Now, why would the girl even have that kind of money cash? That's what I'm even like thinking about. Because why would she have such amount of money in cash? So she gives them cash, and then they took me somewhere and were threatening to kill me. They were like, if I don't cooperate, they're going to kill me now, that I should just come down and just be going. Like, they didn't give me 1 naira to go home. Like, these guys didn't leave 1,000 naira in my account. And they were threatening to kill me. They literally showed me where they're going to kill me and throw me. It was that, and these are police officers. They were fully dressed in police uniforms, no badges, no plate numbers, nothing, because I was checking. But they had the police, this thing. And people are saying I should go back to the police. To do what? I should go back to the police to do what? This is not the first time this kind of things happen. Why are they harassing young people in Port Harcourt? Why? We need to leave. If you can leave this country, just...
Okay. Beyond heartbreaking, you know, this account, and what's even more heartbreaking, you know, first of all, they humiliated him. Not only did they rob Iyo Prosper, he was humiliated, treated in a way that a human being should not be treated. And what's even sad about this is that Prosper is not the first, and unfortunately might not be the last. I say might because I'm trying to be hopeful. that we'll see change in Nigeria, but he might not be the last young person who will experience the wickedness of the Nigerian police. Now, we're expecting that, because there are many who would argue, how are we sure they are the police? What if they were criminals? Whether or not they are actually the police. This is a point where we're expecting the Commissioner of Police in Rivers State, the Commissioner of Police in Bayelsa State. We want to hear statements. We want to see that these men are fished out. Unfortunately, he said he kept checking to try and see if there's a way he could identify them. But when you're put in that kind of situation, handcuffed, you're beating, that's the last thing you can see. He couldn't get a plate number. He couldn't get a means to identify them. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they need to fish these people out. It reminds us yet again where we are as a nation, where young people feel the need to protect themselves. And part of what protecting themselves looks like sometimes is leaving the country. We saw the after effect of the End House protests in 2020. That was a turning point for a number of people who left the country because they felt, if I cannot feel safe in my country, what am I doing here? That's the very least you can ask for as a Nigerian. One of your rights enshrined in the Constitution is the right to dignity of human person. And that is not in any way, shape or form a dignified way to treat a Nigerian citizen.
It's sad, Olive. But I think my look into this I have a different view, a divergent view on this. I mean, first of all, nobody should go through this because you will no longer remain the same. You'll be traumatized every time you go out. You keep watching behind your shoulders. You don't know who's coming behind you or in front of you just because you have faced this before. However, I would like to take his statement as an alleged statement because, for one, we cannot fully say that these guys are police officers. We have instances where thieves are being caught. They are perpetrators. They just disguise as police officers. They get the uniform, they wear it. I mean, just recently, a king was caught where he was saying he was a king. King of what? And he attended the king's event until some people said, come, what kingdom do you... And he couldn't speak, but he had the entire regalia, complete. So we have these instances where people dress as policemen, complete. Hence why the police force had to put out a statement some years back, reminding skit makers and content creators that you cannot be using the police uniform. You must get clearance, especially for movie actors, but that's a different story. In his case, there's no identity. So it's hard to even trace who these people are. The car had no plate number, big problem. The states and the areas, the streets, there's no camera, challenge. So you cannot say, just as is done in saner climes or abroad, with all the money Nigeria has, you can't trace from street one and watch them on camera and say, okay, they moved here, and so on. But I have one suggestion. The suggestion is, let them trace back to the POS lady who gave them that money. That is the only person that they can go to, and possibly with the policemen, and have a conversation with her.
Joe, if the police want to fish out these people, they can. The police are very active. I mean, they're able to crack...
I'm not denying that.
Because there have been robberies before now, and the police have always found these people, whether or not they're uniform. The reason why people can wear such uniforms without badges or names, the reason why people can drive these vehicles without plate number in the first place, if we go by your assumption that maybe they're criminals, right? It's because in the first place, how did it become okay to drive vehicles without plate number, to wear a police uniform without your name tag on it? How did we normalize all of that if we go by that argument?
Our society has become so porous that we make security directives, we give instructions to just the citizens, but we don't care about how those in power are being treated. Because take, for instance, now, just as he mentioned, in Lagos here, you have policemen in those small Korokwe buses going around and picking people.
So that's what I'm saying exactly. At the end of the day, I will still hold the police responsible in many cases because it's why certain things, because this has become a habit, it's gone unchecked. It's become part of our norm to see policemen in those buses that don't have plate numbers, Korokwe buses, you know. When those kind of things happen, of course, citizens will assume that these people are police officers. So whether or not they're police officers, we are calling on the Commissioner of Police in Rivers State and the Commissioner of Police in Bayelsa State. This matter needs to be followed to the letter. It needs to be investigated. The culprits need to be arrested and made to face their day in court. And my heart really goes out to you, Prosper. I can't imagine the level of trauma. I did reach out to him to join us on the show but unfortunately he was too traumatized to speak. Enough is enough. Let Nigerian youths breathe. Let's now go to our final story this morning on Wake Up Conversations. A throwback video of President Bola Tinubu speaking on the fight against corruption has resurfaced online, sparking widespread debate across social media and political circles. In the video, the president is seen outlining strong positions on tackling corruption and public accountability, remarks that have now drawn renewed scrutiny amid ongoing national conversations about governance and integrity.
When Felix doesn't need to look for 4 million at a time to buy a little car, when that car is assembled here and he has a credit finance associated with it, the credit finance in turn will move the production, increasing the production demand. The availability of credit will equally multiply the need and the purchase and disposal. In its multiplication effect is the man who fabricates the brake pads. The ordinary locksmith for the boot of the car will make money. We can and we will. We will change the dynamics of those inefficiencies, talking about potential. Potential. Potential that is pregnant with so many things and never had a delivery of life birth. We will drive Nigeria potential to reality of delivery of progressive life birth of industrialization, progress, manufacturing, industrialization, and electricity.
Well, I'm sure you're wondering why that video is being played, because on social media throughout yesterday, that video was trending. Everyone was highlighting it and saying, have we forgotten so soon? We've not seen, they say the potential is pregnant. He never born. This is almost 3 years. The pregnancy shouldn't last more than a year now, or max, or 9 months. But Nigerians are talking, especially using that video as a case study. The president had talked about localizing in terms of ensuring that those locally made products, services, name it what you want to call it, will thrive under his leadership. But as it stands now, we've not seen Nigerian leaders buying Nigerian-made cars. They're buying foreign cars. As it stands now, Uche, who he did mention somehow in his speech about brake parts and so on, his shop has been locked. As we speak now, he's being chased out of his shop because he's told if it doesn't open due to insecurity. As we speak now, some of the shops have been burnt down to the ground and there's no credit. The president did talk about when they have credit, they have this. As we speak now, you cannot even get credit in the bank because the percentage is too high. As we speak now, you cannot even buy a new car. It will take Tom, who has worked in the bank for 14 years, and Tom is just 38. He cannot buy a car because he cannot walk into the car store and say, give me this car. When they tell him the cost, 30 million. Tom will look at his salary. His salary is just... That
30 million is for which car first? It's not for Tierra Basha.
It's not... Well,
except a smaller
Tierra Basha, that's what I mean.
Very
and
small
his salary is just 250K.
Because that's literally like...
He would walk back like Michael Jackson and say, this dream is not for me. So, while that video was trending, Nigerians were talking. Let's see what Nigerians are saying on X very quickly, just to highlight some of the stories there. With all due respect, sir, action speaks louder than words. That's what Lizzie of Blaze says, looking through that video. But Jagaban actually knows what Nigeria's problem is. So what changed? That's the question. What changed? That's what they're asking. Me say don't understand waiting they talk or waiting pay me pass. Now those people where they clap. And very fair. People always clap at every single speech. Even when they sneeze, they clap. Since this man became president, nobody in the APC has been tried for corruption. Same thing with Lagos State too. Anyway, that's all. Let us know your thoughts. We're streaming live on all socials, on YouTube, Facebook, X, and you can find us as well on other platforms. Let us know what you think. If you have a comment or two, please drop it. We do have our first guest who's in, and we're ready to go straight into our very first conversation. In the course of the programming, we'll take your comments right there on YouTube, so do well to drop a comment or two. Let's bring to you what our top stories are today on a Thursday morning here on Breakfast Central. Thursday morning edition at Breakfast Central. National grid collapse persists. What's the way forward? We'll also look at the police as they fire tear gas. The residents protesting at Makoko, concerning Makoko demolitions. We do hear babies, children were affected yesterday. Alleged bandit funded. Shuaibu Leman slams Katsina local government over alleged payment to bandits. I'll also look at Kabusa and Waru residents demand basic amenities ahead of FCT Council polls. Plus, the front pages of the newspapers. You can have your say. Stay here. It's Breakfast Central. Stay with us. Welcome back. From Zamfara to Kaduna, Katsina to Sokoto, the Northwest has become a war zone. Leman paints a grim picture. Villages razed, children abducted, farmers displaced, and entire communities living in fear. But what's worse, the quiet complicity of some in power, those who fund, negotiate with, or turn a blind eye to the bandits. Nigeria's response to banditry has gradually accommodated a shadow economy of ransom payments, negotiated settlements, and official ambiguity.
What is framed as crisis management has, in practice, obscured accountability and normalized arrangements that ought to trouble the national conscience. When the state, either through negligence or negotiation, empowers those who terrorize its citizens, what remains of its moral authority? Today, we confront a chilling truth, one that columnist Shuaibu Usman Leman doesn't mince words about. In his searing commentary on the niche, Leman declares that funding bandits is not just a policy failure, but a betrayal of public trust. Joining us for the discussion this morning is the former National Secretary of the NUJ, Shuaibu Usman Leman. Thank you very much for joining us.
Morning.
If I begin with the initial opening paragraph of the article on the niche, it says, if the allegation that the local government in Katsina State budgeted public funds for payment to suspected bandits is false, then the government owes the public a full, transparent, and credible explanation. Silence or denial is insufficient. If the allegation is true, it must be reversed immediately and those responsible held accountable. Security is not a commodity to be bought from the lawless. It is a right that the state must guarantee. To treat it otherwise is not only a policy failure, it is a betrayal of public trust. Very clearly put out there. So let's start with, what has led you to this conclusion, what patterns you've seen from the government in the fight against insecurity that has led you to conclude or to reach this conclusion about the funding for bandits, and what your response would be to those who argue that is the non-kinetic method, it's the carrot and the stick approach to fighting insecurity.
Well, first and foremost, we need to understand that security is the primary responsibility of government. Security is a constitutional duty and not a negotiated service. You cannot pay criminals today and expect peace tomorrow. Once violence becomes a budget line, the state has surrendered its moral authority. Allegations like this, like I say, when coming especially from prominent people like the former SSG of Katsina, require government verification and not silence. Was the allocation real? Who authorized the budget proposal? Under what legal frame? These are very fundamental issues that need to be answered, because when you keep quiet, when you refuse to account for your actions or inactions, it gives room for speculation and for people to conclude that certain things are being done improperly. If violence becomes profitable, peace becomes irrational. And every naira that is paid to criminals is taken away from schools, from healthcare, from farmers, and from law-abiding citizens. who obey the law. And once violence becomes a borderline, like I said, the state begins to lose its moral authority. And in times like this, silence is not golden. When you keep quiet, you become complicit in this action. And that is why I wrote that Nigerians need explanation. Nigerians need to be convinced. And we believe it is not proper that criminals should be paid. And let me be clear, dialogue is not the problem. Amnesty, accountability, reintegration, whatever you call it, is not the problem. But when such are done, there must be a criteria for granting amnesty to criminals, for reintegrating criminals into society, and for forgiving criminals who have taken the state to ransom as citizens of this country. This is what we are saying.
Okay, let me ask generally, I mean, in your view, is there a difference between negotiating with bandits and actually funding them? Where do we draw the line? Negotiating with them and funding them?
When you even talk about funding, and that is why we say that we need explanation. What do you mean by funding? Giving them money for ransom purposes? Giving them money for welfare purposes? Giving them money to stay away from villages and from communities and from farmlands? Or what? Who are the bandits? And it gives room for conclusion that the person that budgeted that amount is a bandit himself, because such actions give room for removal of public funds for personal use. And that is why it is very, very serious. 300 million naira for a state like Katsina, if for a local government, is much money. This is an area where schools have been destroyed, villages have been ransacked, farmlands have been destroyed, and yet there are allegations of 300 million naira being removed to finance bandits. This is too much, and I think there is need for government to come in and make it very clear to Nigerians what that means, whether the money has been budgeted, whether they intend to budget that money, or whatever. There is need for clear information over this issue.
Okay. So in your article, what are you addressing? And what is the way forward, especially looking at the fact that the government has remained silent, especially on this issue of state governors paying bandits, ensuring that the citizens or members of the community gather money and funds to keep the bandits at bay and ensure that they do not in any way disrupt their livelihoods. What are you looking to achieve with your article at first, and what do you think the government should do, since it seems like they've been quiet?
My fear is that, one, Nigeria, according to UNICEF, has about 20 million out-of-school children. Out of this, majority of these are in northern Nigeria. And places like Katsina have over 3.5 million out-of-school children. And Nigeria will not secure peace through transactions. We will secure peace through justice, through transparency, and a security policy that protects citizens and not criminals. When you begin to invest in lawlessness and forget about investing in education, investing in healthcare, investing in rural infrastructure, you are destroying a whole generation. This is my fear, and this is my line of argument, that look, we are in a very dire situation, especially in northern Nigeria. We cannot continue to be reckless in the way we spend money, ignoring the welfare and security of ordinary citizens. It is in Katsina State and other states in the north that you see complete villages being destroyed and wiped out, villagers becoming internally displaced persons. Look at this case of Kaduna State, for example, where over 150 worshippers have been taken away into the bush without trace. Look at the area of Kidanwaya, for example, in Kaduna State, where villagers said they have raised 40 million naira ransom by selling over 3,000 bags of corn to generate that money just to pay bandits. Nigeria is slowly dying, and these are things that government should take very seriously. We cannot continue to allow local governments and state governments to negotiate with bandits, with criminals, to the detriment of other Nigerians who are law-abiding. Kinetic measures, non-kinetic measures, yes. But first of all, you cannot convince criminals to drop their weapons without, first of all, showing them the force and the might of the state. Without that, criminals will continue to dictate what they want. Criminals will continue to take over the aspects of negotiation and continue to negotiate with you at their own pleasure. This is my fear, and these are red lines we need not to cross.
When you say that, silence is not an option and you demand accountability from the government, what will that look like? What will that accountability look like? What will not permitting silence? I mean, he says the danger lies not only in what the state fails to stop, but in what it quietly permits. So what will that look like? Will press conferences be enough? What sort of explanations or methods do you expect them to react and respond to this?
Well, press conferences will not be enough. You have to be convincing enough. If a third tier of government is claiming to budget 300 million naira for bandits, there should be clear explanation, convincing explanations for people to understand why such monies are being budgeted. If you are releasing 70 million bandits because of peace, what are the criteria that you are using to release these bandits? We have instances in the Northeast where we have these criminals that are called repentant bandits or repentant terrorists. A lot of them have claimed that they have surrendered, but they have not repented. They have surrendered, but they have not repented. And that's a very serious issue. So what we are saying is that government, first of all, must convince us about the need for negotiation, about the need to budget money for these bandits. You cannot claim that these bandits have suffered long-term neglect by government. All Nigerians have been suffering this long-term neglect by government. It cannot be for a band of criminals that have been terrorizing citizens. It is important that we realize that you cannot pay criminals today and expect peace tomorrow. No, certainly not. The much needed money should be used for education, especially in the north. We should use for farmers who are suffering. We should use it for healthcare and other facilities. Such explanations are not coming from government. The government is keeping mute over this. You just cannot dismiss such allegations by issuing a press statement from your press secretary and say these are lies. When allegations are coming from very prominent people who have served in government, like a former secretary to the state government, we should take them seriously. We should demand proper explanation. We should demand proper accountability so that we know that government is not complicit in this act of banditry and criminality that is happening in almost every part of northern Nigeria.
What about the citizens? What role do the citizens play? I mean, Dr. Christopher Inua, clearly, I mean, we're seeing here that he clearly calls them out and calls the government out and alleges the allocation of 300 million naira in the budget for 2026 for compensation of bandits. And if someone of that repute can make such strong allegations, not a random person, what do we make of it? What do we make of the silence that has ensued? And how can citizens, hold the government to account as well?
I cannot hear you very well.
Okay, I was speaking about the allegations by Dr. Christopher Inowa, who is the former secretary to the Kaduna State government, about the 300 million naira that was allocated in the 2026 budget for payments to suspected bandits. And if someone of that caliber makes such strong allegations, what does that tell us about where we are? And how can the citizens hold the government to account?
Well, accountability by holding government to account by citizens is very difficult. And that is why you and I are here today, because we have taken up the challenge as media personalities to discuss these issues on behalf of those who don't have a voice. And we are demanding on their behalf that government needs to explain these issues, because these are important issues. How I wish some of these programs would be taken in Hausa, the language that most of people in Katsina and some of these rural areas even understand. You will be surprised the way some of them will come and contribute to such programs. It is important that the media should go into this and try to make government to account for their inactions and inactions over some of these things. It is very germane that we do that, and it is in that respect that I wrote that my column over this, and I'm happy your medium has taken it up. I believe that if the media goes into this in detail, we are going to get a headway over some of these issues. Unfortunately, most of the people are ignorant of some of these things. Most of the people are illiterate, and they don't even have access to media like you and I. But we are doing that on their behalf, and I think that the government is listening to this, and we should demand explanations to some of these things. I continue to reiterate that 300 million naira as a budget line is a lot of money. It can put a lot of schools in order. It can buy drugs in rural clinics, and it can repair boreholes all over the place. So we should continue in this line. We should continue to demand explanation. We should put government to do what is right on behalf of the citizens of this country.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We've been talking to Shuaibu Usman Leman. He's the former National Secretary of the Nigeria Union of Journalists. He did put out an article on the niche.ng. You can check it out, thenicheng.com. And the theme of that article, the title is Funding Bandits is a Betrayal of Public Trust. Hence why he's our guest this morning, looking at all aspects, especially concerning that in Katsina State, where 300 million naira has been budgeted to ensure that it would be used to pay suspected bandits. And he's broken down why this needs to be challenged, and also calling on the federal government and all as Nigerians, including residents of Katsina State. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to speak with you again in the nearest future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Away from that conversation, let's tell you that as the February 21st local government elections draw closer in the Federal Capital Territory, residents in parts of the Abuja Municipal Area Council say the polls present another chance to address long-standing concerns. From Kabusa and Waru communities, residents say poor infrastructure and neglect have continued to define their daily lives. Our correspondent, Sumaya Abubakar, visited both communities where residents spoke about their challenges and expectations.
Residents of Waru community say years of neglect have left them struggling with poor roads and limited access to basic amenities. They say that their concerns have been raised repeatedly with little response from those in authority.
In this community, most of us, we are farmers. And without road, are not able to transfer or import our goods from the farm to homes. So we like a good road. We are suffering about electricity in this community. If you look at this community, the population is more than 5,000 people. And if you could imagine the population of more than 5,000 people, they cannot have access to light within a week because the few transformers that we have cannot carry out the appliances that we have in this community.
The school, this UBA that we are having here, we still need more classes. This ahead of that, which is senior classes, because this is short stop at JS3, and we're expecting the one that we take from JS1 to SS3, so that to avoiding our children going outside.
We like the person that will come to dig borehole, maybe at least in some site, so that those that don't have money to afford water, they can be fetching free water.
In Kabusa community, residents share similar concerns, saying the lack of basic services continue to affect their livelihoods. Many say repeated unfulfilled promises have made them lose hope in the government, even as another election approaches.
All the area, nothing like water system, it's only boreholes that we are having here. And one man came here and promised us he would do something like that. So we are still relying on him that he will get to our minister.
We expect our leaders to show concern, but always things are always been like they don't care about the youth.
I get mine to come out vote, but me, I don't say before. Say me, if I want to vote, unless they give me money before I vote, because the one where they give me that time, now my home be that. If a person don't clamp, don't know anybody again.
As residents of Kabusa and Waru weigh their option ahead of the polls, they say addressing their concerns, not campaign promises, will determine their trust in the next area council's election. In Abuja, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
All right, so the countdown is on. February is just around the corner, and the month of January is coming to an end. But let's bring to you what's coming up next year on Breakfast Central. As the second hour is looking to be very, very intense. Coming up next, national grid collapses for second time in 4 days. And what does that mean for Nigeria? Police fire tear gas at Makoko protesters. It was indeed a different scenario yesterday. And lawmakers probe airstrike and authenticate tax acts. Stay with us. This is Breakfast Central.
It's 2026, and Nigeria's national grid has collapsed twice this year alone, with millions plunged into darkness, hospital activities disrupted, and businesses crippled. Yet, the silence from those responsible is deafening. The Transmission Company of Nigeria has come out several times to say it's working on it. But how many more times will Nigerians hear that line? In a country with over 200 million people and the largest economy on the continent, why can't we keep the lights on? Well, joining us for today's discussion is the former chairman and CEO of Nigeria's Electricity Regulatory and the chairman of Abuja School of Politics, Dr. Sam Amadi. Good morning, Dr. Amadi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We've barely said Happy New Year, and I mean, the grid has collapsed in less than 4 days this year. Is this, I mean, twice in how many days? What do we make of this? And what future should we expect to see in 2026, if in less than a month we already had 2 grid collapses in less than 4 days this year?
Well, first, it's they say the morning is the window to the day. So obviously you should expect more grid collapse, not less, except some radical things happen. But how do we explain it? Simple. I think grid collapse is simply a result of fragility in the grids that can come from multiple ways, including when there's excess inadequacy and the frequency control is terrible. And it's like, a formula has to balance energy supply, energy demand. And so when it doesn't balance and the system cannot protect itself is frail. It might be from distribution component. It might come from inability of transmission. So human error, management has a problem, adequacy of quantity. So the grid just collapse, meaning it gives up, it's frail, it's fragile to a breaking point, and it breaks. And because electricity is almost like automatic flow, if there's such disruption, then everything collapses. You have to jumpstart again. It's like when your car runs out of, some of us who use generators that they say you shouldn't allow fuel to finish. When the fuel finish permanently or totally, the system shuts down. You may have to breach it, breach it, then remove the air, put it in, and it works. So that's what it is. And what it shows or tells a story of fragility, very severe one, and it has increased, showing that the leadership of the sector at both the policy, the regulatory, and the operational level is weak, very weak, and maybe more deficient than in the past. So if we're not having more frequency, regularity of collapses, it tells a story around majorly management of the grid is perhaps more robust, more diligent, and the infrastructure is not well managed. So basically, how will this change? I don't think so. I think it could be worse, basically, because my sense is that the leadership in the sector is very weak at this point. Well, from the minister downwards, a lot of politicking, a lot of distraction, and no sufficient technical attention to the grid. So a lot of talk about power, but really nobody is seriously, focusing on radical improvement and maintaining that improvement, not just in numbers, saying, the generation has improved. We can now generate 8,000 megawatts. We can now, transmit 6,000 megawatts. That's abstract. What you want to see is a continuous improvement in terms of availability of hours of electricity. So we can say generally that maybe last year, on the average, we did, all things being equal, let's say 8 hours on the average as constant lead time of light. Okay. Then the next quarter, we move to 10 hours consistently. That's what's called improvement. So we're not seeing that, and I doubt if we'll see it soon enough.
Dr. Madi, I have over 10 questions I would love for you to address, and I would like us to go really deep into finding out the possible solutions to these problems. I think we can now move away from, why is it collapsing and so on and so on, because the federal government is telling us that, there are challenges, there's theft, there's all of that. We've had you on this show before. You've also mentioned some of those challenges. But I think let's move away. Let's look at the major issues. I want to start first with, I do have a list of questions for you, but let me go with just one of them, and then hopefully with time we'll follow up with the others. Recently, people have been moved from Band A all the way to Band C. I'd like you to speak on that. I thought presently the government had said they had the power to supply every single homes where they had graded them from A, B, C, D. But now we're seeing some areas that have been degraded from A all the way to C. What could be responsible for this? And then secondly, I also like us to look at the issues of free meters. The discos are saying, we don't align with that. Why are you sharing free meters to people and households? How does that affect the discos as well? So these are two questions. I'd like you to address them one after the other, and hopefully we can make do with the little time we have to really touch deeper on other conversations.
Okay, so because you don't have enough time, I will just brief but detailed a bit. Let's take the first question around grading or banding. When that Band A, Band B, Band C came up, I challenged INEC, mildly, and I had a conversation with some of the commissioners. I said, this is just a revenue strategy and not an operational issue, because electricity tariffs and households are not graded Band A, Band B. and you don't allocate to people, say this band will have this amount of power. No, that's even discriminatory, arguably unconstitutional. So what happened was that the system faced severe financial crisis arising from the macroeconomic policies of the government, namely the float of the naira and the inflation that meant that the revenue, the debts in the market, kind of ballooned and unmanageable. So they needed to find a fiscal strategy. And that strategy is to get more money from customers without creating protests. So if you go to people who are rural area, who are very poor and who don't even have light, tell them pay more. So they say, okay, you know what? We can promise people more power, some people clusters, some of them, and where we have better reliability, so we can give them more power. But my point was that, look, if we want to do that, it presupposes that you're going to have some new additional power coming in. So assuming there's a 2,000 megawatts coming to the system, reliable, consistent, you cannot decide to distribute it to some peak customers, premium customers, because of their, maybe location or the technical, capabilities of their network or their power to pay. And so, okay, we'll give you more, you pay more. So I knew it's going to collapse. Why? Because at the time, what we're doing was rationing scarcity. They were basically depriving some people power at a very severe level and overpromising some people. So those who are Band A discovered really that they're not even getting anything. I mean, why they pay? Because Band A is really pretty expensive, compared to Band B and Band C. So the next condition as part of this was to say, if people consistently are deprived that premium power, then they get downgraded. So when people started complaining to INEC and people are to take up arms, we don't want this Band A, take it off, because the crisis is if you pay more and there's no matching power, you still use gen, and so at the end of the day, the household expenditure on power is triples. You are paying more for not much difference, and still using diesel or other forms of alternative generation. So it's worst case in terms of volumetric impact every month. So that's what happened. They don't have that power to give people consistently, Band A. And then the discourse also got greedy. They will expand everywhere, even where there's no reliability. Ideally, Band A will be where you have very exceptional good connection, good, conditions for sustained power. But they keep spreading, looking for money. And then they have to now be forced perhaps to go back again, and some people opted out using their influence and complaints. So that's what happened. It was a bad policy. It was actually deceptive in my view at the beginning. Again, back to the meter issue. Ideally, in the market condition, there should be no free meter, because essentially, when the discos do their tariffs and NEC approves it, meter has been factored into that, tariff you're paying, and that's why we say everything your meter belongs to the distribution company, because everything the network, you pay for it by paying tariff. You don't pay additional fees. A reworking market, you don't come and pay after paying your tariff. You now pay X amount for meter. When I was INEC Chairman, I used to have what they call meter maintenance fee, which was because there's no money, so they needed something to make money. I stopped it. Instead, increase tariff. People pay. They pay for everything. But look at the problem. The problem is that because of the financial crisis in the market, because of the DISCO's inability to borrow money ahead, to finance meter rollout, and then recover in a piecemeal through the tariffs, the government has to, come in and bridge it and say, we provide meter. Now, what they are providing is free, but the DISCOs are getting services from that meter. The DISCOs use that meter for revenue management. The DISCOs use that meter to control, and it's their meter. So at the end of the day, it's free because it's not free. Government is paying. And so government is doing that because government cannot see the system collapse. The DISCOs can't roll out enough meter for two reasons. One is finance. You need to borrow. This market is finance to credit, is to borrowing. You borrow 10 years, 20 years, tenure, then you recover gradually. But the institutions in the market don't have that credibility, that creditworthiness to borrow long term and recover long term. They want to borrow short term and recover short term. So that mismatch creates an investment gap that government steps in occasionally. When I was there, we gave them some support for the CBN to get back from them. So that's the problem we have today. So what INEC did under me was a little bit was more efficient, more innovative, but perhaps didn't allow it to work, because what we did was to say consumers can crowdfund the discos like loan. So consumers borrow the disco. When you buy the meter under the plan, then you're entitled to to be paid back through discounts over 2-3 years. Meaning that yes, we recognize that there's a financial gap. We the consumers fund them, like we loan the money, buy the meter, is their meter, but have to pay us back from time to time through discount. So it's like bulk purchase, and then they are discounted, they don't pay. The idea is that the principle is that the meter is paid by the consumer. The meter belongs to the disco, but where the disco cannot finance meter purchase before consumers pay. The only way consumers pay in the state market is through tariff. Everything is paid through tariff. There's no other payment, but that's not ideal. When I hear consumers buy their meter, discos charge them full distance, discos take the meter. When they leave the house, discos take the meter and still charge other people. So really, the financing of the market is problematic because of the character of the market today, which is not a very responsive, not fiscally, well-governed market, and the regulator has to do the best they can. So government intervenes, which is good, public good. Government says we can't allow consumers the system to collapse. So government makes that investment. But the question is to have a clear protocol where the discos do not receive revenue from that investment because it's a public investment, and the consumers don't pay extra when government has paid.
Okay, let's move away from the metering saga. I'm sure that we'll get more clarity in the coming days. After the minister had made a statement regarding that, I'm sure that we'll get a clearer picture in the coming days. But I saw an article on the Business Day newspaper, and it said, I'm just going to read the headline: Nigeria's power mart flips as solar becomes cheaper than grid. So the first question is, do you agree that solar is now cheaper than grid? And if yes, what will that mean for the economy, for the discos? Or would you say that, it's a good thing, a step closer to green energy?
Well, first, solar could, I'm not sure what the figures are, but solar could be cheaper if technological advancement makes capital procurement cheap. And of course, the good thing about solar and other renewable is that the recurring cost is less. So at the initial capital cost will be higher. Of course, I don't see any family putting good solar that will not spend at least 2, 3, 4 million naira. So that means the cost of acquiring solar is cheaper. It's more expensive than the cost of getting connected to any electricity grid. So it's not cheaper in the cost of acquisition. But the argument is that over time, the rate to pay, the use of other costs, you don't have it with solar. So long term, maybe solar may be relatively cheaper. I'm not sure. But again, the limitations are there. People talk about solar. Solar should be a kind of a supplementary solution to a national grid. A grid has to. Solar is not a predictable energy source to run industrial or commercial business. Even Germany, that had the highest number of solar investment or solar production in the world, they're somewhat climbing down. I think we should be careful in proceeding to the so-called green energy. The overriding imperative today is energy. Many economists argue strongly for what they call clean energy and green energy, arguing that ultimately it makes more in terms of economic production, it makes more sense that you generate allied industry, the solar production itself will be an industry, and so the green energy triggers a whole lot of economic boom. But then again, don't forget that we are importing all these things. It's not necessary that the spillover, the technological spillover, the financial spillover is not that great. So yes, I believe that we should move into clean energy, but I think we should make haste slowly. We need to optimize, as a matter of national strategy, our gas deposit for electricity. And then gradually, and in a strategic sense, roll in solar. Today, Nigerians are switching to solar because there's no, their power grid is weak. And so it's not like solar, it's a proven solution, far better in many ways than diesel electricity or electricity from the fossil conventional means. So yes, solar is getting cheaper, just like other renewables are getting because of changes in battery power, cost of technology will always go cheaper as more innovation comes in. But ultimately, the choice consumers are faced with, if they have good power from the grid, it's going to be cheaper. If we rebuild our grid, and expand our production, the unit cost will be cheaper to consumers, and then solar will become handy as we supplement. In many places, big houses, they can use solar for some devices, maybe and then stay on the grid so that when, or even hotels, they can use solar for some other things and have grid power. So it's solar. We should make haste slowly. We have to repair and fix our national grid because our future as a country depends on industrial takeoff, whether in the service sector or in the manufacturing sector. We need to take off in a big economic way, and solar will not be the driver of that transformation.
All right. Let's look at another aspect of this conversation. The number one citizen, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, promised in 2022, in his words, I quote, "If I don't deliver stable power in 4 years, don't re-elect me or don't vote for me." I mean, end of quote. Is this promise already broken from your aspect?
I think when politicians audaciously make very specific commitments, I mean, if I don't deliver power in 4 years or 2 years, don't vote for me. Then we should take them seriously. We should. That's a clearly measurable scorecard. I mean, many things that politicians promise could be highfalutin, vaporous, vague, and so on. But this is very specific and measurable. And the verdict is that you've not. In my own view, is that with all fairness, this government has dragged us behind. And people don't forget that. When you measure government success in the power sector, you expect that they build on the modest success of predecessors. So you don't, if you're on the same level, you have failed. You don't need to go down to fail. If you stay stable, if you make just small improvement, you have failed as well. Because the system should have geometric proportion, the improvement. When people dig the ground, when they lay the foundation, then the takeoff should be fast and rapid. So the government has failed. And I told you that day one, they didn't have leadership that was focused, informed enough, that had the time. I mean, the minister maybe accomplished in many ways. It was clear that he was going to be doing politics. He had his eye on the governorship. In my own sense, that I didn't see the level of energy, even in the previous, even other Buhari, who had unqualified, sometimes unqualified ministers, they had perhaps more time to put on on this job. Let's not talk about Jonathan. So there are many, we have had failures, but you can see the difference that the people who have managed this sector have tried to put in more attention and done things and been strategic. So they failed. And in my view, if the president, base his scorecard, base his leadership on fixing the power sector, then he has failed. And then Nigerian voters should return back to him the verdict, because that's what my good friend Fashola also, boasted about this. Unfortunately, he didn't do well as Minister of Power, better as Minister of Works, I think, and Housing, but power, no. So I think the government, APC government has, and the lesson is, don't politicize power. If Nigeria can have a consensus, no matter who wins 2027, and again, take power out of politics, let's not just use it to campaign. Let's not use it to measure. Just lay out what you think, your own diagnosis of the problem. And that's the problem. People start talking about electricity sector reform without first having a very real, robust diagnosis. And as a strategist, the approach is first a diagnosis. And diagnosis is not really that fact. We have 6 megawatts. We have 10. That's not the diagnosis. A diagnosis is a narrative, a sense, making sense of all these facts. What does it tell us about fundamentals? And then you now think around, where are we going? How do you overcome these fundamentals? And what set of coherent actions will overcome and transform these fundamentals? And then you work on it, leave the politics, just grind through it, and then bring people who are not going to be your party men or your OES men, because really, this is about fixing things, and it's not engineering. Another point, caveat, this is not an engineering problem. It's not an engineering problem. Otherwise, we have many brilliant engineers. It's an adaptive challenge. It's a leadership problem. It's a problem of system thinking, understanding, the interactions between many variables and how to, program intervention not to create unintended consequences. It's a leadership and management problem. And so, unfortunately, Nigerian politicians will be opportunistic and say, oh, this regime has failed on power when they have no credential, no patience, no knowledge, no competence to fix it. And so that's why we are worse off than we were in 2015 when I left, clearly by every indicator, whether in terms of quality of regulation, in terms of policy, in terms of operations. The system is worse off. And we want to have, that's why I predict that we're going to have these frequent, collapses, because the fragility is not fixed through rhetoric or politics.
All right. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in terms of, you've made a point that this sector should not be politicized, and there's still worries about the current Minister of Power, who is also vying for that political space. You've also mentioned that. So there could be a divide in terms of paying attention to the sector 100% and also chasing a political career. Maybe that's why Nigerians are equally worried that the grid will continue to shut down, because the person in charge may not have 100% focus on solving the crisis and the problem. We would love to go on, but because we're out of time, we want to say thank you so much for joining us, as always, and we look forward to have you again. Maybe this time we'll be looking at the successes of Nigeria's power sector. Hopefully, one day.
I hope so, and I pray.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, away from that story, Olive, it's no doubt that we will continue to hope that one day there will be power. Someone put out a tweet, just for clarity. I don't know, I'm sure some of our viewers may have seen that yesterday. They were talking about the popular TikToker, the popular social media influencer, IShowSpeed, who had been able to tour different African countries.
I think 28 countries in 20 days.
Yes, and then he touched down Namibia. And someone said a Nigerian went under the post and said, how did he get to Namibia? And a Namibian responded and said, oh, by the way, I know you are not, it was some sort of a jab, and said, oh, we do have an airport or something. And instead of him to keep quiet, he still went ahead and said something, and the Namibian replied and said, oh, we have stable power, our grid doesn't shut down, and so on and so forth.
That's the most insulting thing they always say to us, any small thing. People don't have power. Oh, up NEPA. Anyway, let's go on a break. We'll come back and have some more conversations, so please do not change the channel. We'll be right back.
Is that what you're asking me? So what we are just asking is for the state to halt all illegal demolition.
They marched through major roads towards the State Assembly in Alausa, hoping to draw legislative attention to the plight of displaced residents across the state.
They destroy so many properties of our market because we are selling matu.
Everywhere. Oh my God, lost this school, man. I can't know what they need. And Tony shop, they talk pure water.
After trekking nearly 6 kilometers from Ikeja under bridge to the Lagos State House of Assembly in Alausa, the protesters say their message is clear. Development must not come at the cost of displacement, as they await a response from the Lagos State government.
But the response they got wasn't what they expected. Several tear gas canisters were fired at the crowd, scattering the protesters.
The police officer just shot this woman
and leaving some with injuries.
How come when I see what the police do us?
were here when they are raising abuses on me as Commissioner of Police, Lagos State. That was vomiting blood. They call me all kind of name. But in my profession, I should work under pressure. No gunshot was fired. What we use is the minimum force that is allowed in protests when people become rioters. After all, we are inside with them. If it's going to cause any injury or death, it will have caused it to equally police personnel. Nobody is killed, nobody is injured, but we've been able to successfully dispatch them, because if we allow them to continue to sit on the road, upcoming vehicle can run into them, and it's not safe for even them and equally other road users.
It is absolutely ridiculous, in my view, just ridiculous. And they say Commissioner of Police is telling me I cannot afford to allow them to block a public fairway. I cannot allow you to destroy people's homes and make them homeless. Are we all mad in this country?
With the protesters gone, security personnel still maintain a strong presence at the State Assembly, as questions remain over the use of tear gas and the concerns raised by the affected protesters. In Lagos, for News Central, Victor Mbadike.
Well, you could say it's drama upon drama. But joining us now to discuss this, we do have the man who was on ground, who covered the entire thing, the entire scenario, and also was a victim to the tear gas. We have our News Central correspondent, Victor Mbadike, live in the studio. And also joining us, public affairs analyst, Professor Simeon Ona is here as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. And Victor, I think we're going to start off first with you. Tough one right there. What started peacefully eventually became a case where people were injured, blood spills here and there. Can you tell us what really happened?
Well, I'm still trying to get my voice, because one of the major effects of that tear gas, I don't know if that's what happens afterwards. Like you rightly saw in that report, the police were actually there from the very beginning to ensure that there was orderliness, maintain, security and all of that, just to protect these guys and avoid infiltration from, what they call agberos and stuff like that, just to ensure that everything went as smooth as possible. But I noticed from when they were marching towards the State Assembly complex, the police officers accosted one of the leaders of the protest, Taiwo Hassan, who we all know as Sokoto, and appealed to him that the protesters should at least use one side of the road and not block the entire carriageway, because the vehicles can no longer, but he bluntly refused and said, I mean, you can't continue to hound these guys. You guys can't continue to make them go through suffering. A lot of people have, died in the process, and this is what you're telling us, and the police officers left them alone. And so they marched to the State Assembly, where, he instructed all of them to sit down on the floor so that they could have some level of control over the crowd, because they were really much. They were really, really massive. And they were just doing their normal announcements. Everybody were giving their testimonies, talking how protesters do, and trying to wait for the legislative guys to attend to them, but none of them came forward. And they said that they were going to be there until somebody attended to them. But eventually, a few legislators, only wanted 1, 2, 3, or 4 persons to come into the complex, but they all refused. And they said they were all going to go in there. Otherwise, nobody's going to leave, to see anybody, because you know how these things turn out eventually. They wanted to see the end of the entire thing. And just about 20 minutes later, I mean, nobody knew, because I was having discussions with a lot of persons around. These guys, to be honest, it's a peaceful protest. Peaceful protest involves just marching, carrying placards, and simple as ABC, no violence. But people will say things. If you saw what the commissioner said, that they were insulting him, I just smiled at that.
Yeah, but he said he's trying to work under pressure.
Well, but I know there's a level at which you can take some of these things. He really got pissed off, when the kind of names you were calling him and all that, and the fact that he said they were sitting on the road and not allowing vehicles to pass. But your own vehicles, also blocked that road for reasons personal to you. So that was not tenable, if you ask me. But 20 minutes into the chants and all the noises these guys were making, I was just by under, because the sun was so much. I just, went by under the tree just to get some fresh air. It was a canister I met just right in front of me. And it's okay to fire 1 or 2, okay, if I could use that just to scare them. But just so much. You could count as much as 20 canisters.
Wow.
Just flying all around. And that's too much. That's way too much. And a lot of them were scampering for safety. I felt pity for women who came all the way from Makoko, Wudeniri, and Jegunle, Barega with their children. In fact, one of my cameramen was asking me, why would this guy be bringing babies 6 months, a year old? And the reasonable argument would be that these guys are the major victims where they don't have a home, and they're just here to just, raise their voices. And so when those canisters were flying, they were all running. Some of them were stomping on themselves. So you saw the injuries, and some of them really got injured. And the canisters, of course, pierced through the chin of one of them. So there was some kind of laceration. And when I went to visit her at the hospital in Lagoon, and I was told, the doctor actually told me that they can't treat that case there because it's beyond their control. And then she'll have to be referred to another hospital at Ikoyi for plastic surgery. So these are some of the issues. That's the ones we know.
Wait, did you say surgery?
Yes, plastic surgery.
Oh.
And they're saying nobody was injured.
Yes, of course. When the incident...
the police still said nobody was injured.
Yes.
Well, the commissioner of police was here last night, and we asked him. He said he's not aware nobody was injured. After all, nobody had made any report. That was why deliberately in that report placed it on his statement to see it himself.
Then these people show him the visuals.
He did. But you know how it is. After he said, since there is no formal complaint, he will assume that there was not something.
Professor.
Okay, yes. Let's bring in Professor now. You've heard everything. You've heard his side of his eyewitness experience to this, what some refer to as a mishandling of Nigerian citizens. The people of Makoko are human beings that have a dignity of human person, but they've been treated less than human persons, many would argue. But let's get your reaction.
Well, from what I gathered, it's not just the Makoko people. They talked of Owodo Niri, Ayotoro, Oku Egbo, and Oku Baba were mixed up in that protest yesterday. And all of them were asking for a relief. They are asking for resettlement that has a human face, a humane resettlement. We have seen this administration demolish places, and they will tell you they are shanties. And when you go there, you'll see massive structures that they are destroying. I think it's one too many. And look at the one that happened in Festac, the one that happened in complex. And that one they came to tell us it was the same thing that was close to maybe the waterway or what have you. And we have it on good authority that that was wrong. And recall too, that of that of Trade Fair. That the Trade Fair complex is a federal Trade Fair complex. It's not state. The state have nothing to do with that. They have said it a number of times, but they still, and those of who they demolish their properties have all their documents. Now, in this, let's face the one that we are talking about now, the Makoko area. I learned earlier because I've listened to a youth from that place, a youth leader, who said they just connived with some of their others and maybe ballets and what have you. And at the end of the day, they are asking them to bring documents. And the guy is asking, these are traditional homes.
Right.
Which document are you asking for us? We don't have C of O's.
Professor, let's hold our thoughts for a bit. We want to go on a very quick break. And we'll come back from the break. We'll pick up from where he's left off. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still discussing the outcome of the protest that happened yesterday, as well as the casualties that have resulted. We're still joined by our correspondent who experienced this live. He was tear gassed. He's managing to talk this morning. Management to give him nice warm milk to help clear his throat. But on a more serious note, Professor Nna is also here with us. Professor Nna, you were talking about, before we went on the break, that they were asked to produce documents, and they said, we don't have C of O.
Yeah, they don't have, because these are people that have settled in that place for decades. and their traditional home, for them. And recall that these are Egu people. Some of them migrated from Togo, some from Republic of Benin, and they've been there for years. So at the end of the day, I don't know what document government was. The one that pains me is what police is saying, that they're using minimum force when you're tear gassing people. May I remind the police force, Nigerian police force, that minimum force in other clans means water, not hot water. Because if you say water now, when they'll start with hot water. It's cold water. That's what nations use to disperse the crowd. Now, tear gas cannot be considered minimum force. Let me remind them that in 2003, that the former Senate president, Okadibo, was killed in Kano with tear gas. Please tear gassed him while he was campaigning under the platform of ANPP. And he died out of that. He didn't survive it. So don't come to gaslight us that you are using minimum force when you are using tear gas. You are using force. You can only say that you are not using maximum force, but you are using force. Okay, look at that yesterday. From the eyewitness account, somebody was taken to hospital, and even the hospital rejected her because they said they don't have equipment to treat her. She needs plastic surgery. And they are saying there were no injuries. I don't understand. This, lying syndrome, it's becoming one too many. Why are we living in denial? Things happen, and you know they have happened, and you are living in denial. It is very, very wrong. The police should learn that world over today, they don't use tear gas to disperse the crowd. They use water to disperse the crowd, not tear gas, please. And from what we heard, they use more than 20 canisters of tear gas yesterday. Look at the crowd. Under that hot weather, and you are using up to 20 canisters of tear gas. I mean, that's not acceptable anywhere in the world. So the government should please look into this matter and find a way of settling these people. Where do you expect them to go? The visuals we are seeing is people living in their boats. No, this is, even if you want to build whatever you want to build, mega city or whatever, no, you don't start this way now. You make plans for some of these things. Before you demolish places, you resettle these people. And if you are resettling them, they are not refugees that you're now put in one IDP camp. No. Do a proper resettlement. Because they are human beings, like you and I. They are human beings. That they are living in that condition today does not mean that we have had people from those areas that have made this country proud, even in football and what have you. So what are we saying? Please, government should look into that matter. Stop this rhetoric. I don't like it. The government is not helping matters. The demolition in Lagos is one too many. Let them hear it loud and clear. It is one too many. And in most cases, okay, this time around, the people are even saying that they were not given proper notice. But I like the governor said they were given notice 2 years ago. There should have been a reminder, even if you had given notice 2 years ago. Did you do a reminder? In some cases, in that of Oroshoki, they went there in the night while people were sleeping. No, these things are not acceptable. Governor, please, let your demolition have a human face. If you must demolish, you must be humane in doing that.
Anyway, it's a sad one. But let's come back to Victor. Victor, with everything that happened yesterday, after everyone was dispersed, what happened next? Is it that everyone started, finding their way? And where do some of these people, where do they live currently? Because they've all left that area. Where are they currently? Where do they settle? Okay, so, well, the story, nobody knew that there was going to be a tear gas incident. You would have probably heard so much more from the respondents, how they've been living their lives and all of that, until this tear gas incident changed the entire narrative. Some of them live with friends, some of them stay under the bridge. These are their own words. They live under the bridge. For those who have shops who do business, they now hawk their businesses. So if they sell water, they now hawk water. And after the day, they go back under the bridge and sleep. You would always have to find a way out, because at the end of the day,
the government really won't come to your help. So they've just, I guess they couldn't take it any longer. It's a pain that they've been living with. And when that tear gas incident happened, because you saw the way they were coughing. I mean, some of them have medical conditions, to be honest. Imagine an asthmatic patient being in that place at that time. What is going to be top of his agenda is to find how to get the safety and treat himself or herself. You probably never see them around. It just, I mean, the canisters were so much that they dispersed under few seconds, and they all, I'm pretty sure that wherever they settled, they were still trying to get their breath, trying to get themselves. So it would take probably several minutes or several hours to get themselves. So they all went few. Those who were lucky, who really didn't get into the thick of the action, went to visit their comrades at the hospital. I met some of them at the hospital, sticking around, giving them hope and motivation and stuff like that. And that's it. They all went to their homes.
The baby, a baby they said died. We saw yes during the raid at Makoko. Okay. So I saw them holding her picture, the baby's picture, during the protest and so on. The government, when he spoke, the Governor Sanwo-Olu, when he spoke about the incident, it was during the budget presentation with members of the press. So we could rightly say then, when the governor was speaking, he had no knowledge of the death of that baby during the raid. But currently now, it has been made clear that the baby died during the raid, and yet nobody from the government has spoken and expressed, pain or sadness that a life was lost in the process of trying to evict these people. From the protest as well, I'd like to also get your view. Let me go to Professor first. Prof, what does this tell about the government and people relationship? I mean, you're a journalist from time immemorial, and you've worked hard in terms of penning words that would express and convey ideas from people in the high echelon down to those who are followers. What does this mean?
Government and governance should have a human face. With what is happening today, I think governance in Lagos doesn't have a human face. And it's so sad that Lagos is called the center of excellence. It should be excellent in everything, not just excellent in collecting taxes. It should be excellent in everything they are doing. Now, somebody died, a child died. Who knows what that child would have become if he had given the opportunity to live. But the life was snuffed off that child, and nobody had deemed it fit to console the family. Now, at times, you see, I said it here before, in my place there's a proverb that if you carry the corpse of another person over the compound of other people, they will think it's a log of wood. But if it is their person that is dead, they will know that it's a human being that is inside that casket. So please, government should look at the plight of Nigerians. See, we're not even looking at the economic effect of what happened there. That's a fishing area. That is going to cause the cost of fish now to go to the rooftop. People that like fish in Lagos are going to suffer it. Because at the end of the day, those fishermen and women have been debarred their livelihoods. What do you expect them to do? Where do you expect them to go from here? They have lived all their life from the birth to adulthood in that place. That's the only place they know. Fishing is the only business they know. Where do you want to take them to? That's the question that government needs to address. Where do you just want to leave them that way? And life goes on? I said it here before, that government in Nigeria, in particular, does not think about the citizens. They always think about the next election. What they are thinking now is 2027. They are not thinking of human beings. They are losing their lives. They are losing their means of livelihood. It's unfair, very, very unfair. Please, Governor Sanwo-Olu, if you are listening, please have a rethink and let the things you are doing have a human face.
Anyway, my final question will go to you, Victor. Journalists, you had colleagues around there as well, and this was widely covered in terms of trying to propagate the message the displaced persons were trying to pass, especially to the government. At any time, was there any presence of anyone from the government house? I mean, it's not far off from our studios. Any presence of anyone from the government house?
You mean at the protest ground itself?
Yes, at the protest ground.
Oh, well, yes, we had a few legislators come out to see if they could appease a few of them and talk to them. But the rest of the crowd didn't want, they felt that that could be some kind of sabotage. They want to be in the mix of whatever conversation you're having. They just wanted a few of them to just come into the chambers, let's talk, but they don't want that. You know how these things work out. I think that was where the police just felt, okay, these guys are not ready to back out. They really want to go all the way, and that was what majorly prompted, the firing of the canisters. Maybe they got some information from the top and said, hey guys, let these guys leave since they don't want to talk to us. But I want to make allusion to the question you raised. Honestly, we've seen this happen before. We are the state governor or leaders pay blind eye or very less attention to the plights of the citizens. We saw that happen at the GNI building when the popular fire accident at Balogu Market. I was fortunate to also cover that incident, and I wanted to ask the governor a question only for his aide to quickly take him out or let him leave. I mean, you were just standing almost opposite or in front of the wrecked building. You cannot tell me you don't know that there are human beings under that building. And his excuse was, because he just passed blame games, his excuse was that, we've told them before, stop doing this, stop doing that, now this is what has happened. I mean, when I heard that from, I was like, But there are people under this rubble for crying out loud. I mean, is that the next thing to do to start blaming games? So I wanted to ask the question and then they took him out. So when this happened too, you cannot tell me the governor does not know that people who were killed or who died as a result of the vicious and the brutal force used by the security agents while, administering their job. I mean, you talked about a baby, there's several of them. Yeah. It can't just be a baby. There's several persons still at the hospital. Some of them you had, some of the respondents say, some of them are the mortuaries. The governor cannot tell me he doesn't know these things. It's impossible. So what they do basically is just to turn a deaf ear to it. And, just as it is, the entire matter was just fizzle out. And that's not how to lead the people you swore to serve and protect.
Very sad situation. Well, I want to say thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining your voices. And Professor, you've made that plea to the governor, very apt. We do hope that the governor will be able to react. This is a sad situation. It's like taking a cookie or a biscuit from a child and then telling the child not to cry, and when the child comes to you to complain and plead that you return it, you beat the child on top of it and even inscribe some marks on the child's body. Because that lady now, like you said, needs surgery. Who's going to pay for it? Where's she going to stay and so on and so forth. So it's double wahala, like Fela said, for dead body. Double one. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, Lee.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Guys.
We'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll bring to you breakfast headlines. Stay with us. Let's take a look and see some of the biggest stories from the news this morning on breakfast headlines. The federal government has unveiled plans to deploy military veterans to help secure Nigeria's ungoverned spaces as part of efforts to boost national security and economic activities. The plan follows the inauguration of an 18-member committee by the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, retired, to reposition the Nigerian Legion and reclaim insecure areas. Represented by the Permanent Secretary, Richard Filangwa, Musa and veterans would complement ongoing military operations, especially in regions with weak state presence. Let's now go to politics and tell you that some former members of the People's Democratic Party in Plateau State who have defected to the ruling All Progressives Congress have expressed delight at the crossover, saying it is the beginning of a new dawn for the people of the state. Former lawmakers, including Napoleon Bali Benila and former State House of Assembly member Dayabu Garga, say that joining the APC is proof of visible unity in the state, irrespective of people's social-cultural affiliations.
I've come into APC already. I've followed all the procedures. And now we'll be getting ready for congresses. Thereafter, I know primaries in July. From today, I'm going to work more for APC to ensure that we have victory from the president down to the House of Assembly.
Before now, His Excellency the Governor has been doing very well. But now that we are connected to the center, we expect more development, more engagement, and since he doesn't have any distraction now, he will be more focused. And at the end of the first tenure, we'll definitely be better for it as a people.
It's all about the people. And today we see the will of the people saying we want to work with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, join the APC, so that we can not only forge ahead as a nation, but contribute meaningfully to the development of our country.
We're joining His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Plateau State, Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang, to join APC today so that we'll be at the center. Let Plateau be at the center. We will never allow ourselves to be left behind, and that is why we are participating in today's event.
It's the unity of Plateau people. It's a new movement that Plateau State has started. You can see that who on the Plateau is here today. We are celebrating a new relationship. We are celebrating our people working together as a team, and we are looking forward to this unity, birthing a lot of things.
The Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria has renewed its demand for the immediate removal of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amupita, citing concerns over his neutrality and past conduct. Speaking at the Council's 2026 annual pre-Ramadan lecture in Abuja, the President of the Council, Bashir Umar, declared that the Muslim Ummah will not recognize any election conducted under the current leadership. Omar alleges that a legal brief previously authored by Amupita, which claimed the existence of a Christian genocide in Nigeria, compromises his integrity as an unbiased electoral umpire.
In the legal brief that he sent, which he made, in which he established the existence of a Christian genocide, which the federal government has categorically dismissed and said that there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria, puts him in direct conflict to what is the position of the nation. And his position will be an act that is unacceptable and has shown that he is clearly religiously biased, and as an umpire for the democratic practice of electing a democratic government, you need to have someone who is clearly unbiased, whose integrity is not compromised. Because of the compromise of his integrity, we feel that the honorable thing for him to do is to resign, and if not, the government should actually dismiss him or at least retire him.
The United States of America, they designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern due to some frivolous allegations that there is Christian genocide in the country. And you know very well that Nigeria is a secular state. But with this lecture, people will be...
Let's tell you that the Forum of Former Deputy Governors of Nigeria have condoled with Bayelsa State Governor, family and associate of Senator Lawrence Erujapo, who died on the 11th of December 2025. In a statement signed by the National Chairman of the Forum, Dr. Chris Akomas, the Forum described the death of the late Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State as a loss not only to the state, but to the country at large. Until his death, Senator Erujapo was an active associate member of the Forum who was dedicated and committed to public service and development and unity of Bayelsa State. The Forum of Former Deputy Governors of Nigeria urged the family to take solace in the good and impactful life lived by the Senator Lawrence Erujapo. Let's now go outside the shores of Nigeria this time. West Africa bloc ECOWAS has lifted all remaining sanctions against Guinea following the election of former junta leader Mamadi Doumbouya. Sanctions were imposed after the 2021 coup that ousted President Alpha Condé. ECOWAS cited the successful constitutional referendum and December presidential election, which saw Doumbouya win 86.7% of the vote. Guinea has been fully reintegrated into ECOWAS decision-making bodies. And finally, in East Africa, Rwanda has launched international arbitration proceedings against the United Kingdom claiming it is owed £100 million under a cancelled asylum relocation agreement. The agreement, signed by a previous British government, provided for payments to Rwanda in return for hosting some asylum seekers who entered the UK illegally. British authorities halted the arrangement after a change of government, stating that future payments would no longer be made, and the cancellation removed any outstanding obligations. And that's all the news we have for you for this hour on Breakfast Headlines. Don't forget to join Blessings Mosugu at 12 for the 12 report, where you can get the full news packaging. Stay with us. The front pages of the newspapers is up next. You can start calling once we return.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's go through the papers this morning. We're, of course, expecting your feedback on any of the stories. We're streaming live via News Central TV live on YouTube, and we will open the phone lines shortly so you can call in. But we have with us in the studio, you know him, you see him all the time, Wade Ahimian, the COO of Stories Africa.
Good morning.
COO, right?
I don't even know, Chief any work.
That's a good one. Good to have you, Wade.
Wade, is this economy affecting you?
Wade doesn't look like. At least he's not in Anambra State.
What's wrong?
It's giving.
It's glowing.
You know, and I don't use cream.
So
before you tell me to cut you the
cut soap.
Cut the soap. And the soap is
like that.
Problem. Advert for them.
Problem.
Okay, let's start with. Let's go to the front pages of the paper. So much has been happening in our country. Which one should we start with?
Let's start with
Nigerian.
the Punch.
Okay.
Or which one?
All right, let's start with the Punch, because that was the conversation we had last, and then we can segue into other stories. Outrage over police crackdown on Lagos anti-demolition protesters. Police tear gas protesters at Lagos Assembly. Make arrest. Activists, right groups slams police. I don't know if you've seen the videos. For the benefit of the doubt, if our production team can please share the videos again of the protest that happened here in Lagos in front of the Lagos State House of Assembly with the police tear gas. So if we have the videos, please, let's play them. But while we're getting the videos ready, 2027, all right, these are the videos. Now, these people have been displaced from their homes. The police say they applied minimal force, and minimal force involved canisters of tear gas that ended up in injuries to some people. Maybe we can also play the Commissioner of Police's statement, and then we'll have Wade react to that.
Anyway, I think we'll get there. But since it's our big story, maybe we might want to start getting his reaction there when we get the commissioner. He was on the station as well.
Yeah, he was on the station. Yes. So he said that he's not aware of any injuries, but there were clips of people who were being injured. Our correspondent was there. He said, someone needs plastic surgery.
It's amazing when you say you're not aware of any injuries, when you shoot into a crowd and people are, running and there's a stampede. Yeah, it just goes to show that you don't, this is my opinion, and I always try and express my opinion as best as possible. You don't know what the aftermath of an incident has been. And that, for me, clearly expresses that, there are no emotions or you have to do your job, don't get me wrong. I read the story. One of the things they said was they were blocking the road, and that's why they had to ensure. But if people come in or come peacefully to a place, are you with me? Like the Lagos State Assembly complex, which is a very, very big space, you get? There are different ways you can address them. The National Lagos State Assembly said they sent out four of the assembly members to speak to them outside the premises, and it was during that process that all the scuffles started, and then the police released tear gas. Let them in. They are Nigerians. They are members. They are residents of Lagos State. If they have grievances, I'm sure you have spaces. That place is big enough for you to say, okay, come in and let's hear. Okay, if not everybody that needs to come in, let's speak to the leaders of the protest so that you don't leave them on the road first and foremost and say they are blocking the road. That's one part I think they didn't get right. And then if at the end of the day, as Lagosians, as citizens of Lagos, as those who pay taxes in Lagos and all, then you haven't treated them properly, in my own opinion. You know, I was somewhere else today and someone said, oh, maybe we should go back to our state. And I'm wondering...
Where is our state?
God bless you. Which state am I going to... Joe, which state are you going to go back to?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Lagos State.
So, but the police, in my opinion, were a bit high-handed. All of a sudden in Nigeria, protests are no longer... Legal. Everybody... People want to go out and walk and talk about the things that affect them. Everybody is in court. In Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory went to court so that workers cannot protest.
Yes.
In Lagos, you go to court. In everywhere, you are going to court. The masters of protest have all of a sudden realized that the legal system works. It's just a pity, in my opinion. Yes, I saw injured people. And your correspondent was there, so he had first hand. And this is not the first time. When some of these protesters were tried to assemble at the Wuru bus stop, it was the same thing to the extent that for 2 weeks, buses could not park in the bus stop. They parked on the road and started causing traffic. So how do we deal with all these kind of situations when, in my opinion, those who are elected officials don't want to listen? Are you with me? And at the end of this day, you don't want to listen. And when people try and come out and speak to you, you say, oh, they're breaking the law. And I think since 2023, the rate at which properties and land are being taken over in Lagos has become alarming.
Yeah.
It's become alarming.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that.
And it's not just Wuru. Even in proper areas where you just come and they say, oh, yes, oh, they have a court order. For instance, I think it was in late 2023, early 2024, the Masha area, my friend who I've known for over 40 years, who has lived there, we all grew up in Sulere together, they put an X on his house because they said the Oba of Masha, in quote, says, oh, they are the owners of the land and they have to come back and repay. And so it just beats me in Nigeria of 21st century, where we seem to have more kings and kingdoms in states, and everybody in his own kingdom believing that he owns all the land that is there. Land that has been allocated, some of them 99 years, that haven't even reached 30, 40 years. And then you come and say, no, you have to come back that you got a court order. And which courts are giving all these orders? So the judicial system, the security system is in chaos. The judicial system is in chaos. So what exactly are we doing in this country? It just beats me.
It's a worrisome case. But I think we do have the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, where he spoke, especially interviewed by our correspondent. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Abuses on me as Commissioner of Police, Lagos State. That was vomiting blood. They call me all kind of name. But in my profession, I should work under pressure. No gunshot was fired. What we use is the minimum force that is allowed in protests when people become rioters. After all, we are inside with them. If it's going to cause any injury or death, it will cause it to equally police personnel. Nobody's killed, nobody's injured, but we've been able to successfully dispatch them, because if we allow them to continue to sit on the road, upcoming vehicle can run into them, and it's not safe for even them and equally other road users.
It is absolutely ridiculous, in my view, just ridiculous. And they said Commissioner of Police.
Okay, so there you have it. Activists and rights groups have slammed.
It just reminds me of Fela's song, and it seems to be that we're in a democracy, but we're going back to the stories of the unknown.
I agree.
And I'll just leave it at that.
I think this question was also raised this week. We also talked about it earlier this week. So the question was, is this really a democracy, or, like Fela would say, demonstration of grace or something?
And that's why I said we'll take it back to the days of being unknown.
Absolutely, because we really don't understand what's going on if things are happening backwards or they're happening the right way.
Well, they are unknown, so if we cannot put a name and a face to it, then it becomes the unknown Democrats.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay,
Well,
let's go to another paper. On the front page of, well, maybe we can still take a few here. Diziani, of course. Diziani lavished over 4 billion naira in London luxury store, according to UK prosecutors on page 3. That's at the top right corner. NUPRC opens 50 oil blocks for bidding. 2027, APC move to manage defection gains, internal crisis. Gunmen abduct pregnant woman in Ondo community attack. There we go again. Nigeria earns 55.5 trillion naira from crude oil sales in 2025.
I think I'd like to stick to that crude oil sales. Wade is a man with numbers. He likes to play with numbers. Wade,
which numbers am I going to play?
Trillion naira, and yet we're still owing and we're still borrowing.
Well,
and we're earning.
Well,
when we see stories like this,
you know, when I see numbers today, I'm a bit careful. Why? And I'll tell you why I'm a bit careful. So, 55 trillion, are you with me? Is at 1,400 naira as the exchange. How much does that come to?
In dollars, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Doing the math.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math.
Let's see.
Maybe about $39.28 billion. So my question first and foremost is how much dollars came in 2024? How much came in 2023 at these different exchange rates? You know, because you can't, you know, when you throw numbers either absolute or in percentages without taking the absolute in comparison, then, yeah, in my own opinion, your analysis doesn't hold water. So you just say, oh, revenues have increased by 30%. Okay, it could have increased by 30% because exchange rate has gone up. It could have reduced by 30% because exchange rate has gone down. If most of our revenues are earned in foreign currency, then you must show us the relative number of the foreign currency. So I really can't speak to how much that 55.5 trillion, because I tried to read through the story, but you really didn't provide all that detail. But maybe next time I would do the analysis and come back and let us know how many, because crude oil quantity for 2025 dropped slightly.
Yeah, that's another one. Let's go to this Nigeria very quickly. There's a very interesting story on this Nigeria. 2027, it says, electronic transmission of results to be made compulsory. NAS proposes new law compelling INEC to transmit results from polling units to IREV. This is good news for those who have been calling for electoral reforms. Slams 5 million naira fine on vote trading.
So that's
US airstrike violated territory sovereignty. That's another one that they say at the National Assembly. But then again, I think the biggest story is the fact that the well fought for electronic transmission of results is now made compulsory. We did hear that the members of the National Assembly had to suspend and go into a closed-door meeting during the session. They had to say, hey, everybody hold on, let's go into a closed-door meeting, let's try and solve this and find a way around it. And now, here it is. What's your take?
Well, they haven't, from what I hear, I don't know where they say it's going to be compulsory. They went into that closed-door meeting.
And it ended there.
And yeah, they said, no, they said they would argue it out today. But this
Nigeria,
the reps, the House of Representatives said they've done their own work and they finished with that. So they're waiting for the Senate so that they can have that
National Assembly.
The national harmonized. Now the question is, I'm not a lawyer, and my senior legal colleague, my learned colleague beside me will tell you that words matter in law. Shall and will and can and could. Do you understand? And she's looking at me.
What does shall mean? I always want to ask.
Shall means that
shall
it must.
It must.
nothing can change
You
it.
didn't tell me you were taking.
Well, we have to. When all these things start to come out, you start to ask your legal luminaries.
Heated.
And you see the way she's looking at me.
Heated.
Heated.
Please just go on. Let's not do it.
But the fact remains
We've
that
veered away from all those kind of complicated.
No, we don't use heated to anymore. It's shall and will and could and can.
It's British.
And should. All those kind of words. So we need to be very careful when they come out with the final words, because remember in 2022 we all hailed this, and it was clearly written there, and they said, oh, there was nowhere in the law that says that it was compulsory. So maybe they will put the word compulsory, or maybe they will use the word shall, because when they use shall, it means that it cannot change.
No turning back.
Exactly. So you see, I've learned some legal words, not because of INEC, but the fact remains that they are going to deliberate on it, and let's see the kind, like they always say, like I go back to fella, are they going to do government magic? The more you look, the less you understand.
Okay, I want us to look at the Nigerian Tribune. We'll come back to the other paper. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, laments energy costs as Peter Obi knocks Tinubu over electricity stability. More than 676.6 billion naira spent on alternate energy costs in H1 2025, according to manufacturers. We're on the second power grid collapse, and it's barely, what's today's date? Just fresh into the year. Power grid collapse is what has welcomed us.
Well, they've told us this one. It collapsed like 3 times in December.
Yeah. December, it was going through a serious heart attack.
And the claim was that they were laying new gas pipelines. But that's fine. The truth of the matter is this, and I continue to say this, there's the issue now in the power sector of whether meters are free or meters are not.
We discussed that with Dr. Amadi today.
Yes, and I heard Dr. Amadi, and I heard clearly what he said. Meters belong to the disco. That's one. Meters don't belong to the individuals. Individuals pay rentals for meters that are in their household. So when you sell meters to consumers, it's wrong, first and foremost.
So what the Minister Adelabo has done is
if the government decides,
no.
If the government decides that it wants to go on a metering program and install meters for free, installation is different from ownership and rental payment for meters, because meters need to be serviced, meters need to be checked. And the reasons why you pay rentals is if there are meter upgrades, it's easier for them to just change your meter, and you continue, your rental might go up slightly, and you continue to pay rentals for them. It's not rocket science. And I listened to Professor Amadi when he was saying that meters belong to the disco. It doesn't belong to Joe, Ade, or Olive. If a disco brings a meter to your house, it belongs to you. So when you tell me to pay for a meter that is going to be used for 10 years as a tenant, and then I stay there for 2 years, and the next person comes in, and that's why people are quite upset about it.
But the bulk of payment rests on the feet of the discos and not the tenants, right? Because here I'm saying, okay, the Distribution Sector Recovery Program, DISREP, is a free metering initiative.
Yeah.
It's a $500 million metering initiative funded by the World Bank and supported by the federal government of Nigeria, aiming to deliver 3.4 million smart meters nationwide at no direct cost to customers across Nigeria.
And that's fine. And which is what I said now. To install, federal government is putting those meters in, are you with me? And you install them. But it doesn't belong to the federal government of Nigeria. It belongs to the discos. And if they are going to upgrade those meters in the future, then you must pay rentals for them. So this ideology of, oh, we have to continually pay for meters, it's unfortunate that we still pay for meters.
Okay.
And on the man issue, yes, they spend so much money because power has been epileptic. A lot of manufacturers have had to provide their own power sources. It's not today. Many of them are just coming back onto the grid after so many years. Do you get? Because some of the discos have gone back to market them, and that's why you came out with all the kind of the different types of management with big industries and all. Oh, we'll give you 24 hours power, you have dedicated lines and feeders and all, which makes sense. And this was part of the things that came up, that brought about what we call the band A, the band B, the
which
band C.
has now been further, as we
disbanded.
is now disbanded
but Joe, I
from
remember
A
when
to C.
But Joe, I told you from the onset that it can't work. It can't work.
So what happened to those who have been paying so much money?
Well, it's a phase that has gone by. It's the same way those who have had to buy meter, and if the federal government now provides this meter,
OT law is gone.
It's gone.
There's a lot of policy somersault.
Well, I don't know about the somersault of the policy. I just know that there is a lot of inconsistency in the way we look at those things.
Let's look at one big story that's been trending up until today. It's starting to look like it may lead to, it may be blown out of proportion. And we're talking about sit at home. Soludo vows clamp down on more markets.
Violent ticketed by force.
I know you've been following this story closely.
And I have. And
first of all, sorry, I just want to ask, do you think he handled it the right way? What could have been the best way to handle this?
But before you respond, let's hear from Sam. Sam is calling from Lagos. Good morning, Sam.
The house was calling us. Where are we? How far are we? How far are we? And these are the realities. So let's not just live in a cocoon and just decide, because we're government.
What's the best way the governor can handle it now?
The best way is to sit down with the market association and the market owner, and let's find a strategy of saying, okay, and then even all the businesses across, what's it called? Because even if banks themselves, the financial institutions are scared of opening on Monday because they don't want anybody to come and attack them.
Of course.
Okay, so while there is no legal basis for the
we can now even now decide and say, you know what, we will now do our work days from Tuesdays to Saturdays.
So, just to mention, while there's no official declaration for sit at home, Governor Peter Mbah in 2023 stopped the sit at home. On the 10th of May, he declared that there's no more sit at home.
Yeah, but
and I want them to go back. However, things have returned to normal in Enugu State. They don't really observe the sit at home from what I hear. And I hear also that he threatened to go down this route and that he even did shut down markets, that's some of the reports. So what if Governor Soludo is borrowing a leaf from Enugu? Or are we saying that he should try and devise a solution that is suitable for
a solution must encompass everybody that fits into the economic system of Anambra State. Are you with me? And the first part of that is everybody agreeing that the security situation is better. Anambra State is quite different from Enugu State. It's quite different from Imo State, And all these things are what you play into, the politics, the people, the culture. They all have, you might all call them all Eastern states, but they all have different nuances.
Peculiarities.
Exactly. Enugu State is more of a civil servant state. Anambra State is more of a trader market
factory.
State. Yes.
Yeah.
Industrial,
heavy.
Inewi, Onisha, Oka. These are all big trading cities.
And you want to shut all of them down.
And that's my point. Because when financial institutions don't open, customers don't come, of what use will it be for me to be in the market?
And
risk my own life too, because a few customers are going to come, or because the state government says I must be in the market. And I think everybody should sit down. Let's work out those modalities until you believe that, one, the level of security is back and is safe enough. People have become more confident that they can go out on Mondays. And then you can start to work. Work starts on Tuesday and then you do Saturday. And then you take Monday as your weekend is on Saturday. Sunday and Monday. Like in some countries that
like Dubai. Friday, Saturday, off, Sunday, back to work.
Yeah. So Friday, Saturday is your work. So that's it.
It's been a pleasure having you, Wade.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you to our callers. For those whose calls we couldn't pick, we sincerely apologize. We are out of time. Tomorrow is another day. It's TGIF edition. By His Grace, we'll be here. But stick around. Jasiri is up next. After that, you do have Business Edge. After that, you do have 12 Report. My name is Joe Hansen.
And my name is Olive Emodi. I'll be back for the Friday edition. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.